All right, so we got some pretty interesting news here. Really interesting trend that we're seeing here in the election that's upcoming, the 2022 midterm elections, which are upcoming. I was actually really afraid because it seemed like the Democrats were about to get screwed at every level, and then you'd have the Supreme Court as being radical conservative, you'd have the House and the Senate controlled by Republicans, and then eventually in 2024, if it ends up happening where, Joe Biden loses, you're in big trouble. But it appears that there has now been a reversal, whereas before it looked like Democrats were kind of getting their asses kicked at every level in Congress. It appears that this is flipped. Now we're going to look into this a bit, analyze it a bit, talk about what exactly is going on here, and try to break this whole situation down. So we can see here, good old real clear politics poll average, man. We looked at these a lot back in the 2020 primaries, so man, interesting to be back, no? But anyways, you can see these numbers, here showing us. It's called the generic ballot. It just asks you which party you support. This is actually, I believe, political science-wise, I think this is actually supposed to be the biggest indicator for who's actually going to win the House of Representatives. Just ask you like which party do you support. But what you can see here is Republicans had held a pretty solid lead really since that's November of 2021, right? Pretty solid lead. You can see here like a couple point lead all the way up here, like 4 or 5 points in February, and they've really held on to like a solid like 3 to 4 point lead for quite a while now. So they had a pretty solid lead. Democrats were losing by quite a bit, but as the abortion ruling and other stuff has come out, and you can see this just in June 20th. So I mean, we're what, August 11th? So that's just like about a little slight of 2 months ago, right? That's a little bit slight of 2 months ago. That's a 3 point lead essentially, and you can see that there continues to be that, and then all of a sudden we see a really, closening right here to the point where the Republicans now hold just a zero point 0.1 advantage over multiple days. So you can see here the spread, the actual spread itself is only plus zero point 0.1 points, which is very low. So you can see that here, Republicans 44.3, Democrats 44.2. The Economist YouGov polls always are going to go Democrat. The Rasmussen ones are going to go Republican. Trafalgar Group is going to go Republican. So there's all of that stuff kind of going on there. But this is a stark contrast you can see here from these times where it was a clear 4 point lead. Now, as I said earlier, and this is a new Fox News generic ballot poll that just dropped, that it actually shows some, it's a Political Polls Twitter account, and it actually shows the numbers based on time. So we have now is 41-41. July was GOP 47, Dem 44. June was 44-41, and May was 7 point lead. So in May of 2022, it was a 7 point lead for the GOP, according to the Faux News poll, and now it's tied. So you can see a huge increase for the Democrats, and so the question kind of becomes why, and we'll get to that later. But we're also going to pull up here 538's model. They have some models that they run. They have some simulations that they run, and I guess they run it a bunch of times, and then these give 100. I think they run it 100 times to get 100 outcomes, and then they give you the results here. So Democrats are actually now slightly favored to win the Senate. So it looks like they will be able to potentially maybe hold one of the one of the houses in Congress, right? And so what you can see here is it says 40 and 100 Republicans win, Democrats win 60 and 100. So 60% chance Democrats are able to get a majority. Obviously, they have Joe Biden in the White House, right? So they just need to be able to get that 50 number. And so this is really interesting. It would be really nice to see them be able to hold this. But what's interesting is I read that basically the Senate races are less localized or nationalized races, and so they become more kind of about the candidates themselves. And basically what's been going on is, Donald Trump in the fight with the GOP has actually resulted in a bunch of Trump endorsed candidates who are not really good candidates being the ones running in the Senate races, and those candidates are just not good picks. So people like Herschel Walker, for example, horrible pick. Dr. Oz, horrible pick. And so these are horrible picks that are getting picked apart essentially by their opponent. There's a bunch of these. There's a couple of close races. The ones it has here in gray has one in Nevada. It's a toss-up one with Masto, who's the Democrat, versus Laxalt. I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name, but this one is so, like, John Fetterman is destroying Mehmet Oz so bad that it's actually lean Democrat now. It's 67 and 100 versus 33 and 100. So 67% versus 33%, right? Mark Kelly is destroying his opponent. This is a really close one. This is a toss-up in Georgia. It's Warnock versus Herschel Walker. And so I know they're running some ads, so some interesting ads over there against Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker is a complete moron who, his stupid comments about evolution recently just go to show it. So he's an example of one of those bad candidates, but even then, the race is really close. So we really need to work to try to get Raphael Warnock to win this race. It's a very important seat, not only because you want to contribute to a Democratic majority, but also because you don't want Herschel Walker in office, right? So it's pretty interesting to see how this one is going through. I don't know if there's any of these lean Ds that are going to be able to be picked up. I don't really see how they're going to be able to be picked up, but these are the forecasts of the Senate seats. Here it has 14.6% chance for 50 Democrat seats, 14.5 for 51, 12.5 for 52, 9.1 for 53, 5.8 for 54. What could be scary is if you get like a situation where Manchin and Sinema like can team up with the other party, with the Republicans. But I guess in that situation, Joe Biden can just veto. So I guess that wouldn't be too big of a deal now that I think about it. But let's check out the Senate forecast over time, right? So that's crazy. So just back in June 1st, it was 60-40, but in reverse. So 60% chance that Republicans were going to win the Senate versus 40% chance that the Democrats were going to win it. And that's including the fact that the 50 can only work for, if the Republicans obviously get 50, it doesn't do anything for them. I guess they would both get 50, right? Anyways, you can see that it's gone down and then it went back up in favor of Republicans just back in July. So you can see like kind of weird like changes going on here. And then all of a sudden it's now gone like clearly in favor of the Democrats right now. Now, given voter suppression, gerrymandering, cheating, all that kind of stuff, it's going to be very difficult with the Republicans to be able to win. And so you kind of need like a multiple point lead to be able to beat them, just to take into account all of the cheating that goes on, the voter suppression, the gerrymandering, all of that kind of stuff. But what's interesting is the Republicans are like laughably guaranteed at this point, according to this, to win the House. So even though it seems like there's a tie in the generic ballot poll, which is supposed to be the one that really tells you who's winning the House, it looks like the Republicans are just set to win the House. It says 80 and 100 versus 20 and 100, 80 versus 20%. Now, this has also gone up, actually. This has actually gone up in favor of the Democrats compared to before. We can see that, here it used to be 86-14, so it's moving towards, here. So it looks like they're saying they're going to assume that they have, like a 25, 26 seat lead, something like that. So it looks like the House is pretty much guaranteed to go Republican pretty much. There's like almost no chance that they'll be able to, hold the House. But if they can hold the Senate though and the presidency, that's a big thing. At least you don't want to lose both. You don't want to lose both houses. In Congress, you don't want to lose both of them. But it does appear that they're not going to be able to win. Why exactly these are all flipping, I'm not really sure, to be completely honest with you. I'm not sure why there's so much, but the House looks like it's TFG. It just looks like it's TFG. So it looks like the reasons for this kind of stuff is, it looks like Roe v. Wade is one of them. This article actually says that, according to CBS News/YouGov poll released Sunday, 50% of Democrats said they are more likely to vote in the midterm elections as a result of the Supreme Court overturning Roe, compared to just 20% of Republicans. A survey from NPR PBS NewsHour Marist suggests that amongst registered voters, 78% of Democrats said the Supreme Court's ruling makes them more likely to vote in November, a full 24 points higher than Republicans, 54%. The poll also gives Democrats 48-41 advantage in which party they want to see control Congress, compared to 47-44 in favor of Republicans in April this year. With the midterm elections less than 5 months away, the decision by SCOTUS has sent shockwaves through the electorate. Lee Miringoff, director of the Marist College Institute for Public Opinion, wrote an analysis of the survey results. Men are plus 12 points and women are plus 18 points more likely to support congressional candidates who pledge to codify the protections of Roe versus Wade. So this is certainly one of the impacts, of course, that are pushing these, midterm elections more towards the Democratic Party because of the result in Roe versus Wade. So, we're currently in the month of August, and so the elections are obviously in November. Is it going to last all the way throughout these, 3 or 4 months or whatever it is right now? I'm not 100% sure. Um, Also, another thing to keep in mind also about this situation is that, gas prices are going down. I think when I was driving by, I think I saw a gas station have it at like $5.01 for the cheapest one. So I don't know if I was tripping and it was actually more expensive, but the gas prices are going down. So that's going to end up resulting in more approval for Biden and his administration. I've already seen that the favorables for Joe Biden have been rising. So that's actually true. The numbers have been going up by a few points. So that's another bigger thing too. There's been like record low unemployment and this kind of stuff. And so it just looks like generally it seems like there's kind of a swave going on right now in favor of Joe Biden and overall the Democratic Party as a whole. So the question is, will this momentum continue? It'll largely depend upon, some of the inflationary stuff. I saw that a news story had said that like the Fed was happy because they lowered people's expectations of inflation, I think was what it was. If you know about economics, like a significant amount of economics is actually dependent upon people's expectations of what's actually going to happen. So that was another thing. So, maybe they've convinced people that, it's not going to go down super. And I think that business and stuff like that has been more calm about knowing that the Fed isn't going to go too much with their, interest rate rises and stuff like that. So there just generally seems to be a swave in favor of the Democrats. And I mean, if the Democrats are able to retain the Senate and the presidency, I mean, that's at least not, complete Mayday. You always worry about Republicans getting control of everything. It's a very scary thought as to what they could do. And they already have the Supreme Court, which is so insanely powerful, right? So, really, really interesting to see. Is this going to hold up until the November elections? I don't know, but I would definitely keep you posted and keep you in the loop about what exactly is going on here. But definitely some pretty crazy stuff going on.